Good morning. You're joining us live here on India Today's social media handles. I'm Akshita Nandagopal, getting you all the top stories that we're tracking this Tuesday morning. The news that we woke up to largely here in India was an announcement made by America, a big one that affects the entire world because this is a huge step in the global fight against terror. The al-Qaeda chief Ayman al-Zawahiri has been neutralized, has been killed in a special operation that was conducted by America. And this happened in the heart of Kabul. Now, I know a lot of you have questions about who is this person, etc. And I'll try to answer them one by one. First, about the operation itself. This was a drone strike because, as you know, about 11 months ago, the United States had announced that they're pulling all of their troops away from Afghanistan. They're pulling their troops off the ground and thereby ensured that they paved the way for the Taliban to take over. So then obviously at that very point, and many of us discussed it here on India Today as well, about what that meant and how it would lead to a lot more terrorists being harbored within Afghanistan. And that's exactly what's happened clearly. But in this drone strike, the United States fired a Hellfire missile, which they don't use in many circumstances, only when they have a very clear acquired target. Zawahiri was someone who was living in the heart of Kabul, reportedly stepped out onto his balcony, had a habit of doing that, which the United States was tracking, monitoring for the last many months. So they knew at exactly what time he'd come out, knew that he'd step out in his balcony and then fired the missile. And they've ensured zero casualties on the ground. Al-Zawahiri's family was in the same building. None of them have also been killed in the strike. So there's been only one target, and that's what we refer to as a precision strike, because only one person, that terrorist, the al-Qaeda chief, has been killed. Now, where in Kabul did this happen? This has happened in an area called the Shirpur neighborhood. It's about 10 minutes from the US embassy in Kabul. So imagine what kind of a location this is. This is plush Kabul, right in the heart of the city, in what's considered to be downtown part of Kabul. That's where this terror chief was in fact staying. We're also hearing that the property that he stayed in, this massive two-storied building, this house, pictures of which you can see on our social media handles, the house was owned by Sirajuddin Haqqani. So there's a direct connection with the Taliban, that the Taliban was shielding this man, providing him all the logistical support, all the protection that he needed. The United States thereby has sent across a very strong message that they may not have boots on the ground, but they're still very, very closely monitoring what's happening in Afghanistan. Why is this an important moment for them? Well, Zawahiri was involved in a number of terror operations on the United States as well in 1998, in 2000, but the most important was 9/11. He was considered to be one of the main plotters along with Osama bin Laden. And once Osama was killed in Pakistan's Abbottabad years ago, again by the United States, al-Zawahiri took over as the al-Qaeda chief, then was essentially Osama bin Laden's successor. So this is a huge, huge step that's been taken. As US President Joe Biden in his briefing also said, this has ensured essentially that justice has been delivered to the victims of 9/11. And of course, globally, there have been messages coming in welcoming this development, saying it was much needed in the fight against terror. Interestingly and unsurprisingly really, Taliban has reacted to this by saying that this is a violation of the Doha Agreement, that all international deals have been violated when the United States conducted this kind of a strike in their soil, in Afghan soil. But America has very clearly said that they're not going to take that kind of criticism or comments lying down, with the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken saying that what's a clear violation of the Doha deal is harboring and helping terrorists, protecting them in your soil, and that's why the United States was forced to act. For India too, this is a very big moment. Why? Because al-Zawahiri was very closely tracking what's happening in India. His most recent activity was in putting out a video over the Karnataka hijab controversy. He had put out a video where he had hailed Muskan. I'm not sure if you remember, but she was the girl in a hijab who had hit back at people who were in fact garrowing her when she was making her way inside her college. And this was in the peak of that hijab controversy in Karnataka. He had put out a video hailing Muskan, and the al-Qaeda chief was clearly intent to provoke, trying to incite with that kind of a video. So he was very much active and tracking what was happening in India as well, which is why this was such a sizable, important step in the global fight against terror. Comments have come in from Saudi Arabia also, interestingly, welcoming this particular development. Several other countries like Canada also have issued statements saying that this is a much, much needed step. As far as the United States is concerned, and what this means for US-Taliban relations. Will it really change much on the ground? Well, from morning, from 7 a.m. on India Today TV, I've been live and we've been speaking to a number of experts. And the takeaway that I've really gotten from former diplomats, from international affairs experts and analysts is that no, it's not going to change much, that the Taliban is also very reliant on the United States. America has always been very clear that they will crack down on terror irrespective of what kind of consequences there are. And obviously there are comparisons with what happened in Abbottabad and the killing of Osama bin Laden, because there too, in the heart of Pakistan, very close to the Pakistan military headquarters in Abbottabad, is where Osama bin Laden was based. Here too, in the heart of Kabul, in the Shirpur area, as I said, is where al-Zawahiri was placed, and yet the US officials managed to track him down. The military, we understand, has been planning this for 2 months, that Biden knew 2 months ago, gave the go-ahead in July for this operation. And it actually happened over the weekend. It happened on Saturday. Imagine that the US managed to pull off this operation, keep it a secret for so many days. And again, let me highlight that the precision drone strike was done and pulled off in such a manner that when al-Zawahiri was in his balcony, he was targeted, and all of his family members who were in the exact same building are perfectly fine. And if you look at the images of the house itself, a 2-storied, very grand house, the house was completely intact. There's nothing you can make out of a strike except that there are 2 sides, the 2 window panes that have been shattered off the building. And that's all that shows that there was this kind of a strike, one of the deadliest in the world, because it's killed a very wanted terrorist, the Al-Qaeda chief. You can track all the latest reactions, all the analysis, details of the operation itself here on India Today's social media handles. That's the top story of the day. That's the story you need to know about today. Tomorrow, same time, I'll be joining you with a roundup of the big stories.